Joining us by phone right now or by computer right now. Brandy, you've been watching this address with us. There are some people who are going to say that the governor took too long to make this decision. Why do it now after holding off for so long?
Yeah, and people who think that might have an argument to make. In fact, I think the governor almost made that point himself when he said, we want to hit this hard because we want to get past this and get back to life as normal as quickly as possible. And there were some people who thought, and we've been hearing this for days, and I mean, you just look on social media and people really anticipated this. I mean, this announcement doesn't come as a surprise to many Washingtonians. The governor had almost been, I don't know if threatening's the word, but alluding to it, almost like saying, daring us to keep going outside because there were more orders that he could take. And so a lot of people thought, if you're just going to do it, get it out of the way, and let's get past this. And you had mentioned, Jamie, and I think we've got a map of the other states that have some form of a stay-at-home order. There are more than a dozen of them, and that's the other thing here. Washington State was unfortunately at the forefront of this outbreak. We had the first confirmed case in the country, the first confirmed fatality in the country, yet more than a dozen states came before us in deciding that it was time to have an order like this. One thing I do want to say is I like the phrase stay at home because it tells you exactly what you're supposed to do. You know, we've heard this confusing language, people calling it a lockdown order or a shelter in place. And that's confusing because shelter in place is, is there a tornado or an earthquake outside? So calling it a stay at home tells people this is exactly what's expected of you. And just a final note on, the timing of this, Jamie. The governor's hands, I think, were tied, and his hand was forced in this. We saw, for instance, Boeing made that major decision to shut down production operations, which is huge because they have such a huge workforce. And then, of course, over the weekend, the Boeing thing is big, and that's more recent. But then over the weekend, I know that a lot of people saw those images at Alki Beach in Seattle of people just enjoying the sun as if there was nothing else going on in the world. And so you really saw people flagrantly ignoring the advice and the orders of the governor and local health officials. And so at some point as the governor, you have to step in and say, okay, this is no longer a recommendation. This is a mandate.
And we did hear the governor say that essential workers will continue to do their jobs. We know that that includes healthcare workers, first responders. The governor even mentioned the media, saying that the media is critical in getting this important information out to people. So how does the government decide who's essential here?
Yeah, well, some of them are pretty obvious, and it was actually interesting a couple days ago, and it's a new agency, so it's the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. They, just a few days ago on their website, put down recommendations for local entities about, hey, if you feel like you need to do an order where you're banning non-essential workers, here are some sectors that we think are essential. And you heard the governor there say that they're taking these recommendations from the federal government. And so, like I said, some of them are obvious, Jamie. I mean, healthcare workers, nurses, doctors, first responders like firefighters, police and medics. I mean, you can't do without them at any time, and especially not right now. You had mentioned the media, although clearly we are making an effort to try to work at home when we can. It's essential that we're able to bring you broadcasts like the one that you just saw there from the governor. And then grocery store workers and people producing food, our farmers and our agriculture workers, people who keep the lights on in our homes and the heat on in our homes and the water flowing out of our faucets. So these are people who truly, no matter the situation, are absolutely critical to keep our state and our country running. And I will just note, Jamie, that the governor's office has put out a very lengthy and detailed description of all the jobs that are deemed essential. And so there certainly is a resource on the state's website to be able to figure out, is my work essential or is it not essential?
All right, Brandy. Well, the governor did say